Hutia I runga, hutia I waho, hutia I te moana nui o wānanga roa, ngā taki whai tikanga ki te pai o Party People. Anei ahau, a mihi Irirangi e whakariti ana I ngā timonga kai, hei hākari, mā tātou katoa. Welcome to Party People, brought to you by the Public Interest Journalism Fund. As you can see, we've shifted bunkers, but we haven't really shifted positions. Still on the left is Shane Tepo, the master leading Martini connoisseur, Martini, I was trying to do Māori pronunciation, connoisseur Shane Tepo, and on the right of every argument is the Honourable Tauhinari Tēnā kōrua. Centre right. The centre right of every argument is
centre, just centre.
Okay, and the centre of the world is the Honourable Tauhinari Tēnā kōrua. Yeah, it's International Women's Day today. Any whakaaro around that?
Yeah, I just think that we need to recommit in terms of one issue. I think for me it's because it's something I can do as an employer, that's pay equity. Māori women are paid 15% less than non-Māori women, and we've got to fix that. And also I want to say we've got to be less like Whakatongarewa. We've got to have our people telling our stories.
Shop bro.
Yeah.
Awesome. Whakaaro?
Oh yeah, no, it's a major day that we should clap and be behind women. But here's the thing, why is it just one day? Why, how we feel so good on the single day, why aren't we feeling that every day?
Well, it's like, Māori Language Week. It started off with a day and then a little bit here and then a week, and now it's like Mahuru.
Yeah,
so we're going to go for like a Women's Month.
Oh, no.
I'll let you know how we progress. And now for the second most important thing in our lives is kai and the cost of it. So the Commerce Commission inquiry into supermarkets has just been released. The Aussie-owned supermarket chains own 80% of the market, and the inquiry was to look at the competition, the prices, te me. It found a growing fringe of other competitors were unable to compete due to the domination of wholesaling and distribution and land banking, which the report says is in part to stymie rivals setting up shop. It recommends planned law changes around planning laws to make land more available and to improve that wholesale supply. Shane, is it enough?
No, because it's nothing. They say that the profit margin should be about 6 to 8%. It's 22 to 24%. To set up another supermarket chain probably take 3 to 4 years. What I think this report does do, however, it gives the government the ability and the authority to do something, and they should do it today, and they should put maximum prices on essential goods. That would make a real difference to whānau, and these price gouges will still make plenty of money.
Yeah, like a cauliflower, $15, cabbage, $10. Is this mixed up with inflation? How do we read it?
Yeah, I mean, you get the economists who will talk about inflation and this, that and the other thing until the cows come home. But for the great proportion of people who go to Countdown or go to New World, go to Pack and Save, it's about, I wonder how much I'm going to have to pay for that week's shopping so I can feed my family. And the Commerce Commission has shown that it has absolutely no courage whatsoever. It could have come up with a whole raft of things that the government could have done. But it basically hasn't. And all it said is change the planning rules.
What's behind it? Is there anything behind it?
Well, I don't know what's behind. I don't know what's behind it. I think people are scared to do something. People are a bit afraid of the big business behind the countdowns, the New World.
You agree?
Yeah, and I do. And here's the other thing is, they say there's a duopoly, but in many instances there's a monopoly. Because what will happen is, the progressives will get supplier A and they will own them all the way up the chain. And if supplier A wants a better deal, they just cut them some loose. And they did that to Sealord, our biggest supplier.
But here's They're very powerful. But here's something that the suppliers need to think about. Isn't it about time you got together with the other suppliers and call yourself a suppliers association or something, and then put the heat back on those people? Because it's not just a one-sided game. It's everybody. us as consumers as well as them.
Prices have got to do with supply chains, they've got to do with inflation, but the profit margins are the profit margins. They were making 18% plus when inflation was at 2%, 3%. It's going to go up to 6 or 7%. Their profit margins will continue unless we have major government intervention, and we ought to do it, and this government can do it. They won't, sadly.
We're going to go to another political kaupapa of the week, and that was the National Party leader Christopher Luxon's State of the Nation. He delivered that on Sunday, promising, to get rid of regional fuel tax, the bright line test, deductibility for landlords, and to adjust all tax brackets so New Zealanders would pay more tax. Willie Jackson, Māori Development Minister, said the rich would get richer and the poor would get poorer. Whakaaro?
Oh, he's right. I mean, if that's what it was about, but it's not about that.
What is it about?
It's about galvanising whatever support there is available for the National Party. So you're not obviously not going to go and produce a policy for the great unwashed working class. You're going to try and get those voters back from the yellow side, from ACT, voting for National. That's the first thing, and I think he's succeeded. The Roy Morgan poll just the other day is 38% will vote for National. That's great news for them. Whether it pans out in 2023 is another story. But Luxon has done his job. He's stopped the rot. He's stopped the infighting. And now he's put on the table a tried and true National Party policy of tax cuts for actually the people that don't need them.
There is Maureen Pugh, though. She's causing a bit of a stink, though, eh?
Who?
Maureen Pugh.
Maureen.
She's...
Oh, yeah, that's that lady that Simon really, really liked.
I was trying to think. West Coast, I think she is.
West Coast. She's West Coast. She's not going to last long.
Winners and losers in this.
I'm a big winner. I earn a decent income. I'm going to get $130 more a week in the pay. I'm a landlord. I'm going to get $76
What will you do
a week.
with it?
So you know what I'll probably do? I'll probably invest in more housing now because the bright line. No, because the bright. Well, you asked. Now I'm going to be honest. The bright line test is going to go. I don't have to pay deductibility. So there's about $500 million that's going to go back into it. We're slowly seeing houses. We're slowly seeing houses. I'm talking metaphorically, Toe. We've slowly seen house price drops. They're going to go up again. This is a good tax grab for landlords and for folks on high income. Now, let me just tell you the other thing. $14,000 zip. Under $50,000, the folks that you talked about, Toe, guess how much they're going to get extra a week? $7. This is a tickle-down economic drive by the National Party.
Yeah. I love the way people they benefit what they're actually arguing against. And what are they going to do with it? Oh, that's right. They're going to buy more houses.
I think
you could have actually spent $130
like
a week,
he said, metaphorically,
or giving it to a poor person.
Okay, so where does the money come from?
Well, the money's coming from somebody else's back pocket.
Yeah,
that's where it's coming from. So people who, I've always believed that your first 50,000 should be tax free. That's your 50K. That's your stake in New Zealand's economy. And if you earn more than 100K, you don't get to pick up that 50,000, that free 50,000. I think we really do need a more progressive system. I don't say that what Luxon has done is going to fix anything for the poor working class, because it's not.
Well, because repealing the Bright Line test extension and the removal of the interest deductibility for landlords, that works out well for people who own homes. Luxon, he owns 7.
Yeah.
So he's going to do well out of this.
And it's not going to. And it's not all of a sudden landlords are going to reduce their it really doesn't.
Based on goodwill.
It does. It really does. It really does.
So do we have a housing crisis, a home crisis?
Yeah, yes. We do.
And we've had those bright line tests for a while now, a couple of years, eh? There's still a housing crisis.
There's still a housing crisis.
There will be a housing crisis for the next 25 years.
There's still a housing crisis, but our net numbers are up, and also housing prices are dropped down.
No, they're not. No. Do not for a minute buy into this rubbish that houses are falling in value, because the old gentleman up the road from me, he actually couldn't sell his house.
Yeah, well, houses will only
CVs are
be...
dropping by about 10%. That's just a fact, Tau. You can't deny facts.
CVs in Auckland today, in the Herald this morning, have shot up in West Auckland
prices,
37% since the last one.
Prices are slow.
37%.
Prices are dropping by 10%, but Tau, this will not further reduce prices. This will fuel speculation.
I guess that's the question. So how will that help? How will this help?
What will help is a hell of a lot more houses. What will help is assistance from the banks. The banks are saying you can't have money to buy a home.
But if you are taking away the Brightline test extension, then people will be able to buy and sell.
They flip
the houses like they have been in the past.
So tell me what's wrong with that?
Well, then it means
What do you mean flip, by the way? So you buy a house 6 months and then 6 months later you sell it. How often did that happen under the old system?
Lots.
Not very.
Lots.
Very rarely.
Lots.
It was just like when Twyford said that if you've got a Chinese sounding name, you're gone.
Okay.
And I did something about
Well, I know we promised you a poll last week, but you'll have to wait again to the next step. But I do promise you one, and it's going to be a Māori voters poll around leadership issues, best performers, and party vote. So I'm just going to ask you for a prediction, if I could. Where do you think Māori voters are right now if they were to place their support behind party vote? Where would it go?
Personally, I think that they'd be happy. I think that what we've seen from the government is, in terms of Māori portfolios, they tick all the boxes. They've delivered everything that they said they would. And so I personally pat them all on the back.
You don't think that there will be much change in terms of where Māori voters will put their party vote?
Oh, I think that's no, I don't actually.
Okay. Shane?
I don't. I think there'll be a drop from the astronomical high that Labour had at the last elections. There's going to have to be. I think the Māori Party will hold, but remember, a 1 or 2% win is a huge win for the Māori Party because that's 3 or 4. You might see a little bit of recognition from New Zealand First, and you might see 1 or 2% go to those peripheral parties that some of these folks that have been in Wellington support. I think in terms of the big scheme, things will stay the same, and maybe a slight bump to the National Party.
It'll be interesting. Let's see if you two are right in a fortnight's time. So let's talk about Parliament. The chaos, the carnage we witnessed at Parliament last week. It took the police the whole day, the whole night to clear the convoy occupation, which lasted for 23 days and was being labelled Camp COVID. Because of social media, we got to see the police clearing the occupation from every angle on every social media platform. What did you make of it, Tau?
Oh, I thought it was a sad end to a sad protest. I could have handled it if they had stayed for a couple of days. And see, one of the things they didn't do in the 27 days, or however long they were there, was get the public behind them. And most protests that we've been involved in, there's always that person that goes and speaks to the people on the outside, just to make sure, and they didn't do that. And so once you get to 3 or 4 or 5 days, then you know that the way it ended was always going to be like the way it ended.
Yeah, protests, as Tau says, you've been to a few between the three of us, but the factions, but factions of the protests operated from online channels, which was a little bit different, seemed to be a constant stream of information, misinformation, disinformation, whatever you want to call it, making the organisation...
Well, I grew very tired of them very quickly, but look, I'm not going to say that that the mainstream protesters were Nazis, were anti-Semites, were alt-right, were QAnon, but that was the outward face of it. And the nastiness you saw in public was nothing compared to some of the online stuff. And I think that some of those Māori in that protest movement were railroaded because they didn't have leadership that we've had in the past.
Yeah, that was one of the saddest things. Was on the last day was who was getting sprayed by the water and the pepper spray. It was our people.
But bro, when you saw them, and I feel quite emotional talking about this, what they did to our people in Pipitiera, there's just no excuse for that. And when we talk about love and peace, it was the people of Pipitea, talked to them, escorted them off.
Well,
you know, and
without-
just to treat our people that way, just inexcusable.
Without overcooking it, too, there were divisions amongst our people. You know, what is behind it?
Oh, look, but I think you've got to think to yourself. These people, like I said a number of times, they're on the periphery of our society. So these are the people that don't work. Most probably, some of them don't even get the dole.
Yes, that's
you know. They survive the community. They are another class of people, and while I have some sympathy with some of the issues, I certainly don't have sympathy with the way it was carried out. But I will say, if you look at the biggest revolutionaries in society in the last, say, 50 years, people like Malcolm X and that, you go and protest and you stay there until you get what you were protesting for. So there's that school of thought as well. Not that I agree with it, because I just think that in a protest you're there to make a point to the powers that be and then go home.
And also you have a constant consciousness, and there were times I wasn't quite sure that what they're doing.
I don't think they did. I don't think they did have a.
Can I also say that I thought that the way the police handled it, I thought they should have got in.
I'm going to come to that very shortly. I just want to ask Tau a quick question. You know, we've all got people in our whānau who supported the protest, went to the protest. How do we bring them back in?
Hey, you were wrong to go to Wellington, is what I would say. Your home is your home, and you're welcome. And we'll have an argument about that, you know, what you believe in. But they're still whānau. You know, at the end of the day, they are somebody's whānau just because they don't agree with you. Could have been on. We could have been on the other side.
That's
as
right.
we have been.
I think we've got to challenge the extremes, find some commonality, and bring that whānau.
And we know who the extremists are.
How do we bring them back in?
I think it's not going to be easy, and it's not going to be easy. But I think we just got to find the commonality on some of the things that we can work with and work on our own. But we've got to challenge the extremities, and we've got to say, hey, if you're aligned with Steve Bannon's alt-right, we don't have a common kaupapa.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about the response of the New Zealand police. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it's the only thing they could have done, you know. And I haven't been a big supporter of police being involved in stopping protests over the years. I've seen the carnage happen, but unfortunately, when you get to a certain stage, that's the only weapon that the state had, other than in the army, and you didn't want that. So this was at the extremes of demonstrations and protests that this nation has seen, unless we go back to Massey's day in the 1920s.
Yeah, it was interesting seeing, protesters of old supporting police online, so publicly they wouldn't have in the past. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm still feel that the hurt in terms of what I've heard, our people in the Tuoi and the Tuoi raids. But let's just look at this. I think they should have moved a bit quicker, but then they set out a peripheral boundary, the numbers shrunk. Then they did move people off. Let's just remember, folks, no one was killed, no one was badly injured on both sides, and the space was cleared. And, you talk to the local Wellington residents, the noise, the abuse, the ongoing abuse had to be taken away, and I think the police acted appropriately given the circumstances.
So successful operation?
No one was killed, no one was badly injured, both sides.
That's right. I mean, I've said it publicly before. The great thing about this country is that we don't bomb each other just for having a difference of opinion.
I want to talk about the response from political parties. Your thoughts around that? They didn't engage?
Yeah, and I think they were right to not engage because there were so many different groups of people that were represented there. You could have gone down and talked to the nice old ladies, who grew their own medicinal plants, but you couldn't have that discussion with somebody who was also a supporter of Bannon. You just couldn't. And so I think all of those that stayed away, apart from David Seymour, who thought he was going to be the big winner, and Winston. fancy Winston going down and
was
talking
that.
to them.
Yeah, I think that was just an act of opportunism that I think will bite him in the backside.
Yes,
I tell you why.
yeah.
Because he's meant to be the law and order party. They had the Derek Ball, the sensible sentencing czar, along with him.
Yeah.
Then he was accompanied, and the local guide that Winston didn't organise, but he was his local guide to sort of a well-known online hater. I think it'll bite him in the backside, and some of his more conservative people who actually, if you have a look at the stats, again, the elderly folks, they support vaccination and mandate. I reckon he's going to have to do a
He
bit of
will
rebuilding.
not be back in 2023. His time is up. He should go away.
Was that the Winston you knew though?
No, hell no. I got told off. You know, when I went in '93 and I buggered off to Wanganui to Pākaitori, I got told off for going up. Oh, how the worm has turned.
If Winston wasn't governed in any shape or form, he would have made it a law and order issue.
Yeah.
It was
He would have
pure
walked through.
political opportunism.
He would have walked through and said, "You fellas got to go.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the kaupapa later, but you fellas got to go."
Do you think his advisors made a mistake? Well, you know, what was he thinking?
Oh, there are no
because the
Yeah.
group
And no
of
such
people
thing when
because
you-
the occupation was so small, really,
Yeah.
when you look at the numbers.
Yes.
Was that what he was going for?
Yeah, no, he was going for the big publicity. You know, he got dressed up, he got out of his Hawaiian shirt into the old suit again, and was wandering around like he was JC. But the fact of the matter is that he's old. He's past his use-by date.
He saw 30% because there was one poll that was at 30%, but I reckon it was dropping dramatically
Yeah.
day by day, and he thought
Interesting
he could get a slice of that.
Interesting
Let's see.
in our poll that's coming up to
Yes.
see what happens with him. Do you think we've heard the end of it? Will there be any more arrests?
No, we haven't seen the end of it. I think that even when the mandates go, even when this issue dissipates, there will be other issues that people on the peripheral. But I just also think we've got to see it in context. They're not large numbers, and we do tend to give them much more airspace than really they deserve.
They've got to be careful. They have to be careful
Yes.
about their discipline as well, because you had all these people from within filming each other, putting it online so the cops can see who was throwing what at who.
Well, actually, Toad, that's a very good point. What happens to these conspiracy theorists run
Well, yeah, that was my
organisations?
point. Do you think
They
there'll be any
implode.
arrests?
No, they implode. They implode, and that's what we saw with Advance, where Billy and Jamie Lee Ross went at each other, and it dissipated. Yeah, there will continue to be arrests, but I don't think there'll be the mass movement.
What will the police be doing now? Will they be going through all that
They'll be
footage?
they'll be going through the surveillance footage. They'll be going through social media, and they'll be going picking out who's the threat, the main threat. There's other people, and they'll most probably figure.
But also, I think we do need to take a look at our legislation. I don't think that you can inspire people to act illegally in private channels and get away with it. So I think we have to look at some legislative changes also.
I'm cognizant of what the Speaker has said about the perimeter of... we're still one of the only countries where access to the steps of Parliament
Will
is
that change?
unfettered. And I think it has to change. From now on, things will have to change. You know, it's people's behaviour that has to change, but also security has to change as well.
I feel you're right, Toad. Maybe they can just put bollards that we can put up and put down. But remember, for the last 100-odd years, there have been protest after protest,
That's right.
and people have not acted like pigs, and that's what we saw in Wellington.
Tweet of the week goes to a multitude of tweets and threads shared by Te Rangi Kaiwhiria Kemara, who kept us all informed really throughout the protest in his spare time. E mihi ana ki a koe e te whanaunga. Did you have any tweets that stuck with you?
Oh no, the brothers' tweets were very informative. The other thing is a lot of work involved in that. What he would have had to do is he would have had to infiltrate, set up separate personas for some of these Telegram or whatever. So he did a lot of work, and he did keep us informed. And I actually think that what he did is he exposed a lot of the misinformation and people who purposely misinform. And I think that helped win mainstream New Zealand over.
Yeah. Any tweets?
Yeah, no, I think it's. I always like to look at the funny side of things in life, and so it was funny. This bro doing
who was charged initially with terrorism.
Exactly.
Dropped, terrorism
and
charges dropped, but he did serve time in jail.
Yeah, but he did such a fantastic job of giving me personally an insight into what I would most probably not have been able to see.
And you know what he did underplay? The nastiness and the online violence that was directed at him. He underplayed that. It's actually just terrible.
Because he can look after himself. That's why
he can look after himself.
All those fellas
and he's not intimidated, and people in that situation would have been.
There is a lot of mahi that went on in their team of people, I imagine, watching through screens and screens.
It was a huge production.
Like
the production of party people. It just doesn't start at the beginning of the program. And same with his mahi.
Since we last met, there has been war has broken out. Do you want to share some of your thoughts around what's happening in Ukraine?
Oh, it's any war is sad because people are going to lose their lives, rightly or wrongly. People will die. People have died. Russians, Ukrainians, and whoever else. This whole conflict is littered with hypocrisy from the West. When you have countries like Yemen who've been bombed this morning by American sources, so don't talk to me and get on your high horse about the invasion of another country. When we've seen Iraq, when we've seen Afghanistan, hell, foreign troops have been on the ground in Afghanistan for 20 years.
We've ramped up our sanctions, the Foreign Minister Nanai Mahuta this morning, talking about those. Is that the right thing to do?
Yeah, no, it is, because what it'll do, it'll undermine Putin and undermine his supporters. I agree with Toe, but that doesn't mean that we ought not to deal with what we're dealing with now. And we've seen 1 million refugees in the last week, and
we've seen refugees in Yemen as well. Hang on, we shouldn't take anybody from Ukraine until we start taking.
Well, we do.
From Yemen. No, we don't. No, we don't.
Under the refugee quota, we do. But what, Toe? The thing is, we should do more. You're right.
Tēnā kōrua. Ko Nawhi, that's Party People for this week. He mihi nui ki te Puna Whakatongarewa mōna I tautoko I tēnei kaupapa. Kua puta a pito I te reka o ngā kai kua hora I te rānei. Me te aha ka noho tonu ko te tāwara o I nei kaupapa ki te pai o Mahara. Haere nei te wā ki konei whakawhetai atu. Ki te tini ngero I whai wāhi mai ki te hākari tahi. Haere rā e hoa māmenga manakitanga o te runga rawa o te wāhi ngaro ki runga kia koutou katoa.